Hello everyone, welcome back to a new video. Have you ever felt her silence more than you ever felt her touch? It's not the texts that stop, it's the way her absence begins to speak louder than her presence ever did. She doesn't say, "I miss you." She won't tell you that your name still echoes in her mind at 2 a.m. when the bed feels too wide and her soul too small. But you can feel it in the hesitation of her likes, in the way she watches your stories but never responds, in the way her name still lingers in your notifications like a ghost who never left. She pretends she's fine, she posts her wins, she wears that smile like armor, but beneath it all, there is a longing, quiet, ashamed, almost angry, a longing that wants you close but refuses to confess the ache. This video is not about chasing breadcrumbs. It's about understanding a truth many men never learn, that missing someone doesn't always look like a plea. Sometimes it looks like distance, like silence, like pride, and when a woman misses you but won't admit it, she speaks a language most men never learn to hear. Today, we're going to translate that language. You'll see the signs, the hidden emotional patterns, the subtle confessions she never speaks out loud but always shows. Let's begin. She won't call you. She won't message you at midnight and confess that her chest tightens when your name shows up in her dreams. That would be far too vulnerable, far too raw, so instead she gets quiet, not cold, not cruel, just quiet, emotionally pulled back, like someone who's afraid of falling again. You see, missing you is not a weakness she's ready to reveal. Because the truth is, she's still protecting the very part of herself that shattered when you left, or when she pushed you away, thinking she wouldn't care. She thought she'd be over it by now. That time, distance, or distraction would dilute your presence in her. But time doesn't erase what the heart wasn't ready to release, so instead of reaching out, she scrolls. She scrolls past your photos pretending not to look. She hovers on your name in her contact list, her thumb trembling over the call button before she sighs and locks the screen. Again, and you might think that her silence means indifference, but silence can be deceptive, because a woman who's done with you usually has peace. But the one who's hurting quietly, her peace feels like a storm held in a pretty smile. When she misses you but won't admit it, she becomes strategic with her distance. Not because she's playing games, but because she's playing defense. There's a part of her still hoping you'll notice, still hoping you'll be the one to break the silence first, so she doesn't have to break her pride. Her Instagram becomes a curated gallery of confidence, but look closely, the captions are louder than the photos. Healing, unbothered, if it's meant to be. Those aren't declarations, they're defense mechanisms disguised as mantras. She doesn't tell her friends she cried last week when a stranger wore your cologne. She doesn't tell them how every version of you is stitched into the songs she skips on purpose. She just says, "I'm fine," because women are taught to move on gracefully, to never look back, to bury the yearning beneath the surface of new routines. But her routine has changed, that's another sign, subtle but telling. The gym sessions are longer. The texts get slower, the conversations become safer. It's like her whole life suddenly becomes one big project to forget you without really forgetting you. Because she doesn't want to forget you. She wants to stop feeling haunted by the way you laughed, the way you looked at her when you didn't know she was watching, the way you made her feel like she was the only woman in the room. And here's where most men get it wrong. They see the silence, the distance, the calmness, and they assume she's done. But when a woman is really done, she detaches with peace. When she's still aching, she detaches with fire. Short texts, passive aggression won. Word replies, the avoidance, all of it ironically, is her way of keeping you close without giving herself away. Because if she really didn't care anymore, she wouldn't need to protect herself. She wouldn't need to make you wonder. She wouldn't need to stay in your orbit, even silently, but she does. She stays close enough to feel you, far enough not to be burned by you again. And then comes the timing, another quiet confession. She starts showing up online when you're active. She doesn't say anything, but she's watching, not obsessively, not like a teenager, but like someone waiting to be acknowledged without having to ask for it. Women who miss you won't always chase you. Sometimes they just linger where your energy is. That's not coincidence. That's emotional residue. Her subconscious still orbits around you because the emotional ties haven't been fully cut. You'll also notice how her tone changes, not to you directly, but to the world. There's a tenderness that returns to her voice when she talks about memories. Maybe not about you explicitly, but love in general. She'll post something nostalgic, a quote, a lyric. Something with ache in it, but never your name, never that. It's like she wants to scream, "I miss you." But all that comes out is a whisper that only those who know how to listen can hear. And you're one of the few who can. You knew the way her eyes looked when they were filled with wonder. You knew how she over-explained when she was nervous. You knew how she laughed from her belly when she felt safe. You can feel when that light dims. So if you're wondering whether she misses you, look beyond the noise. Look into the quiet, into the way she starts reclaiming herself too quickly, into the fierceness of her independence, the sudden overactivity. Healing isn't loud, but coping can be, and a woman who misses you but won't say it, she's loud in all the quiet places. And still you might wonder, why won't she just say it? Because saying it would mean admitting you still matter. And in her mind, admitting that is like giving you the knife and asking you not to use it again. So instead, she builds walls decorated with "I'm fine." She wears perfume hoping someone else notices, but deep down hoping you do. She tells herself she's over it, but her body betrays her when she hears your name in a conversation and feels her breath catch. It's not manipulation, it's mourning. It's the mourning of what was, what could have been, and what she's too afraid to want again. Her pride is not ego, it's armor. Her silence is not apathy, it's protection. And when you begin to understand that, you'll start to see her again. Not the image she's curated for the world, but the woman who still remembers how your hand felt on the small of her back. The one who still closes her eyes and lets herself remember the quiet moments that never made it to Instagram. Because sometimes when a woman misses you, she doesn't reach out, she retracts, and inside that retreat is 1,000 unsent messages and one very soft heart waiting to be understood. And there's another way she shows it, through contradiction. One moment she's aloof, cool, almost indifferent. The next she says something kind, something unexpectedly warm, and you find yourself disoriented. This back, and fourth, it's not confusion. It's conflict. Inside her, two parts are at war, the one that misses you with every beat of her heart, and the one that refuses to risk that heart again. And when you see her oscillate between closeness and coldness, don't assume she's playing games. She's not playing at all. She's surviving her own emotions, because missing someone, it's not simple, it's messy, it's layered. It's not just about absence. It's about the memories that keep tugging at her when she least expects them. It's about the scent that rushes her back to a moment she pretends to forget. It's about the way she still dresses like you might bump into her someday, somewhere. Even in her healing, you're still in the room, and when a woman misses you but won't say it, she often pours that emotional energy into other things. Not just distractions, but devotion. You'll notice she becomes highly focused on her body, her business. Her boundaries, it looks like empowerment, and much of it is, but beneath it all is often an emotional rerouting. She's turning heartbreak into fuel, but some part of her still burns for you in the quiet. You might see her post about self, worth, about moving on, about new beginnings. And you might wonder if she's already met someone else. That's what fear does. It tries to answer questions without asking them. But the truth is, a woman can feel drawn to growth and still feel the ghost of you brushing her thoughts. She might date again but not connect, smile again but not laugh the same, touch another but feel nothing. Because when a woman truly loved you, when she felt safe in your arms, when she opened her heart to you without filter, moving on becomes a performance at first. It's practiced, not yet felt. She's hoping if she says it enough, if she posts it enough, if she lives it enough, it will finally become true. That she doesn't miss you anymore, but her nervous system remembers, her eyes remember, her soul remembers the way yours made her feel like she mattered, not just in words, but in your presence. In how you listened, in how you held her in those quiet moments when the world disappeared, and now, in the silence, she still searches for pieces of that presence. Maybe she walks by places you went together half, hoping to see you. Maybe she keeps the sweater, the mug, the playlist not because she can't let go, but because letting go feels like erasing the part of her that was most alive. You have to understand, for many women, love is not just a relationship, it's a memory etched into her identity. And if you touched her soul, you are part of that identity, even if she never speaks your name again. So she copes in ways you may never see. She'll stay up late not because she's busy, but because night is when the noise fades and her truth comes out. That's when she replays the conversations, the ones where you laughed, the ones where you argued, the ones where you said nothing at all, but everything was felt. She may cry, she may journal, she may tell herself she's fine, but if you want to know whether she misses you, ask yourself this: has she truly replaced the emotional intimacy you gave her? Not just someone to text, not someone new to sleep beside, but someone who saw her chaos, her softness, her fire, and still stayed. Because until she finds that again, or until her heart heals, there will always be a corner of her soul with your fingerprints on it. And sometimes she'll find herself longing to send that one text, "I miss you," just 3 words, but pride edits the message. Pride saves it in drafts, pride deletes it before it ever reaches you, and that's where most people misunderstand this dynamic. They think missing someone means reaching out, but for her, reaching out means risk, and missing you in her world becomes a quiet ritual. A private wound. She doesn't want to reopen it, so she simply tends to it in silence. So she might comment on something obscure from your past, something small but sentimental, as if casually. It's not casual, it's intentional. It's her way of peeking through the curtain without stepping onto the stage. Because she's not ready for the whole conversation. She just wants to see if the door is still cracked open. And yes, sometimes she'll test the waters, subtle provocations, a slightly flirty emoji, a message that ends with lol, even though it wasn't that funny. Not because she wants to dive back in, but because she wants to see if the water is still warm, if you're still paying attention, if you've really moved on, or if you're missing her too silently. And what should you do with this knowledge? That depends. If you've grown, if you've reflected, if you know now what you didn't know, then maybe you respond. Not with desperation, not with apology, but with understanding, with presence, with clarity. Let her know that you see the message beneath the message. Because the truth is, sometimes 2 people who miss each other are just waiting for the other to go first. And in that waiting, love erodes into regret, but not always. Sometimes the waiting is part of the healing. And when it's time, the energy shifts. You both begin to feel it, like gravity realigning, like time folding back in on itself, like unfinished sentences begging to be spoken again. So if you're wondering whether she misses you, trust your intuition, but more importantly, listen to her silence. Because within it she's speaking to you, she just doesn't know how to begin, and sometimes she punishes you. Not in a cruel way, not even consciously, but in the quiet corners of her heart, she holds you accountable for the ache she still feels. for the vulnerability she gave you, for the access she allowed you to her soul, and now that she's hurting, she believes you should feel it too, even if you never meant to cause it. Even if she was the one who walked away, so what does she do? She withholds not just affection, but presence. She starts posting more but responding less. She keeps things light, surface level. She doesn't engage with the depth she once offered so freely. And you feel the shift. You feel her slipping into a version of herself that's familiar but distant. You can sense that the warmth is still there, but now it's guarded, locked behind a door you once had the key to. It's not revenge, it's residue. It's the emotional recoil of someone who once reached for love with both hands and found themselves holding air. And here's where it gets harder, because when a woman misses you but won't admit it, she often looks happier than she is. Her joy becomes polished, performative. She's mastered the art of appearing over you, not because she is, but because appearing over you is safer than wondering whether you've already forgotten her. Her friends might notice, not all of them, but the one who knows her heart well. She might ask, "Are you okay?" And she'll say yes, but it's not convincing. Because the truth is, every day she tells herself she's healing, but every night she still imagines what it would feel like if you said, "I miss you too." You see, women don't always want to come back to the man who hurt them, but they do want him to want them back. That's the difference. The desire for reconciliation is not always about reunion. Sometimes it's about dignity. Closure, proof that what you shared wasn't just a moment but a meaning, so she watches silently from the sidelines of your life. Not to intervene, but to remember. She'll see your updates, your new haircut, your travels, the places you go without her now. And some part of her will ache, not because you moved on, but because there was a time she thought you never would without her. And maybe you see her name pop up. Maybe you get a notification that she liked something from months ago. Maybe she sends you a meme, harmless, nostalgic. It's not the message that matters. It's the portal it opens. That tiny thread of connection she's still willing to tug on without fully stepping forward. And you wonder, is this her reaching out? Yes. It is, but not in the way you might expect. It's cautious, it's layered. She's saying, "I remember you," without saying, "I want you back." She's saying, "You mattered," without saying, "I'm still hurting." And the question for you is not just whether you respond, but how. Because how you respond will either validate her quiet hope or deepen her silent pain. This is where maturity comes in. Emotional maturity. If you're still angry, still bitter, still wrapped in ego, you'll miss the tenderness beneath her hesitation. You'll assume she's playing a game, but if you've healed, if you've evolved, you'll see the beauty in her vulnerability, even if it's disguised as indifference. And if she's truly hurting, she's not expecting you to fix it. She just wants to know that you still see her, that she wasn't just a season in your life, but a soul you genuinely valued. So what do? You pause. You reflect, you meet her where she is emotionally, not just digitally. You don't jump back in with confessions. You don't interrogate her, you simply show presence, gentle, grounded, human presence. Maybe that means a simple, honest reply. Maybe that means silence, too. If you know that replying would only reopen wounds neither of you is ready to tend to. But what matters most is awareness. Awareness that when a woman misses you but won't admit it, she speaks in paradoxes. In spaces between words, in actions that seem meaningless to others, but if you ever truly knew her, you'll understand exactly what she's saying. She might share a song with no caption, one you both loved. She might talk about a book she's reading, knowing full well you introduced her to that author. She might post a photo of a place you once held her hand. You see, when women miss someone, they rarely broadcast it. They embed it, they lace it into the poetry of their lives, trusting that the one who shared that chapter with them will know how to read between the lines. And sometimes she'll look right at you in person or online and act like nothing ever happened. She'll laugh, she'll be polite, she'll be graceful, and deep down her heart will be screaming, "Do you still see me?" Because what hurts more than losing love is losing the mirror that once reflected you at your best. She misses that. She misses the way you looked at her when she was bare, emotionally, spiritually, sometimes physically. The way you held space for her chaos. The way you touched her when she didn't even know she needed touch. And now in her attempt to move forward, she realizes no one sees her quite like that anymore, so yes, she misses you. But she'll bury it under layers of strength, under new affirmations, under the armor that says, "I'm okay," because in her world, missing you is one thing. Admitting it, that would make it real, and she's still deciding whether her heart can survive that reality again. And then she starts rewriting the story, not the facts but the feelings. When she misses you but refuses to say it, she begins to reframe the memories, sometimes to protect herself, sometimes to punish herself. She'll tell herself it wasn't that deep, that you weren't that present, that maybe it was all in her head. And at first, that helps her breathe, helps her move, helps her build a version of the past that doesn't hurt so much to carry. But the problem is, the heart remembers what the mind tries to deny, and the body remembers it all. The stillness you brought to her, the way your voice calmed her anxiety when nothing else could, the way she melted into your presence without even realizing she was doing it. So when she hears a joke that only you would laugh at, it stings. When someone tries to kiss her the way you did, it falls flat. Not because they're wrong for her, but because you left an imprint she's still trying to understand. And this is the strange thing about longing. It doesn't always show up as sadness. Sometimes it shows up as anger, as impatience, as a deep restlessness with everything and everyone. Because when a woman has felt emotionally seen, anything less feels like a performance. She can't fake connection anymore. She might even lash out, not at you directly, but at the world. She gets moody, withdrawn, overly reactive. Friends might notice, family might ask, but she won't say your name. She'll just say she's tired, that she's going through something, that she's working on herself, and that's true. But the work she's doing, it has your shadow all over it. She's trying to find herself again, not because she lost herself entirely in you, but because the part of her that bloomed when she was with you, that part still aches to be seen, to be held, to be understood. And without you, she's not sure how to nurture it any more, so she starts over. She rearranges her room, cuts her hair, books that solo trip, learns something new. She becomes the woman who grows visibly, impressively. And you might admire it from afar. Maybe you even cheer her on. But deep down, there's this unspoken truth lingering between you. She became this version of herself because she had to survive missing you. Not in spite of it, because of it, and still she won't say it. She won't admit that the man she says she's over is still the man who lives in the folds of her favorite sweater, in the taste of her coffee, in the rhythm of her Sunday mornings, not because you're unforgettable, but because she gave something real. And real love, no matter how much we try to silence it, doesn't evaporate on demand. Sometimes it lingers, like perfume on an old scarf, like the melody of a song that won't leave your mind, and she begins to realize missing you isn't something she can control. So she starts managing it. She sets rules for herself. No checking your profile after midnight. No talking about you, even if someone brings you up. No walking down the street near that place where you kissed her the first time. She tries to turn missing you into a habit she can quit. Like coffee, like sugar, like cigarettes, but you're not caffeine, you're history. You're the chapter she keeps rereading even when she swears she's ready to turn the page. And here's the quiet truth most men never hear. When a woman misses you but won't admit it, she doesn't always want to go back. Sometimes she just wants to know that what she felt was real, that she wasn't crazy, that the connection wasn't imagined, that the intimacy, emotional, spiritual, physical, actually meant something to you too, because if it did, then the ache is worth it. If it didn't, then she has to rebuild not just her future, but her perception of the past, and that is the deepest kind of grief. The grief of doubting your own memory, of not trusting your own heart, of wondering if you made it all up because you wanted it too badly. And this is where your awareness matters, because she won't tell you she's grieving. She won't show up at your door with tears in her eyes asking for answers. She'll just keep showing up in subtle ways, a like, a glance, a long pause on your message before leaving it unread. And if you're emotionally tuned in, if you still care, you'll feel it. You'll feel her missing you in the way she avoids you, in the way she gives you space but never truly lets go, in the way her silence vibrates louder than any scream. And maybe you don't know what to do with that. Maybe you're healing too. Maybe you're unsure whether she wants you back or just wants to feel seen. But that's okay. You don't have to know yet. You just have to notice, to honor the space between you without dismissing it, to recognize that even in distance, connection leaves echoes, and hers are still echoing, not because she's weak, not because she's desperate, but because she loved with sincerity, and sincere love doesn't vanish, it softens. It reshapes, it waits for clarity, for peace, for closure that doesn't require pain, so no, she won't say it. She won't text you tonight. She won't admit that every time she passes by your old photo, her thumb pauses just a moment longer. But she's thinking of you, and not just in passing. You are still part of her internal world, the one she doesn't talk about, the one she protects with poetry, with silence, with strength. Because that's what women do when they miss you but won't admit it. They carry you not as a burden, but as a memory stitched into the fabric of who they are becoming. And still she hopes you'll understand without needing to explain, that you'll sense the tension behind her short replies, that you'll hear the hesitation in her laugh when your name comes up, that you'll notice how she keeps almost saying something, but chooses silence instead. Because sometimes, when a woman misses you but won't admit it, what she really wants is not to say the words. She wants to feel safe enough not to need them. She wants to know that if she were to open the door again, not with a grand gesture, but with a small crack of vulnerability, that you wouldn't walk in wearing your old shoes, tracking in old wounds, that you'd come with presence, with growth, with gentleness, not to make promises, but to honor truth. And you might still miss her too. You might check her story just to see if she's okay. You might stare at that empty message box and type, erase type again. You might relive a joke, a scent, a shared glance, and feel something tighten in your chest, but neither of you moves. Because love, after heartbreak, becomes a battlefield of restraint. Who will fold first? Who will risk being misunderstood? Who will dare to love again, not blindly, but bravely? We're not taught how to do that. We're taught to move on, to disconnect, to replace. We're told that longing is weakness, that reaching back is foolish. But what if, just what if, maturity is not in pretending not to feel, but in knowing how to feel fully, without drowning? What if missing someone is not the problem? What if the problem is assuming we must always hide it? She doesn't want to hide it anymore, not because she needs to be with you, but because she wants peace with the part of herself that still holds space for you. Peace with the story, peace with the wound, peace with the love that didn't make it, but still mattered. And maybe she'll never tell you that. Maybe she'll take that truth with her into the next chapter, letting it shape her wisdom, her patience, her compassion. But make no mistake, if she truly loved you deeply, quietly, without performance, then part of her still misses you in ways language will never touch. She remembers how you looked when you were focused, the way your voice softened when you were vulnerable, the way your hands felt when they weren't rushed, when they weren't asking, just holding. She remembers the man you tried to be for her. And maybe you didn't succeed, maybe you didn't show up the way she needed, maybe you hurt her or she hurt you. But even now, in the absence, in the silence, there's a version of you still living in her emotional archive. She doesn't replay it to torture herself. She replays it because healing is not about forgetting, it's about remembering differently. So yes, she smiles, she thrives, she moves forward, but you are not erased, you're folded into the layers of her becoming. Into the nights she sat with her pain and didn't numb it. Into the mornings she rose stronger, not because she stopped loving you, but because she learned to love herself more in the aftermath. And maybe one day your paths will cross again, maybe not physically but energetically, a letter left unsent. A message never typed, a dream that leaves her eyes wet. She'll feel you briefly, and she'll smile not with sadness, but with softness. Because you were part of her becoming, and that's a beautiful thing. So what should you do? You honor that? You don't rush to reopen the wound just because you miss her back. You don't chase her down with guilt or apology. You don't try to decode every post or message. You grow, you reflect. You remember her not as a regret, but as a revelation. She showed you your capacity, she revealed your blind spots, she taught you how deeply you could feel it, and how easily that depth can be mishandled. So if she misses you and you know now what you didn't know then, don't wait for the perfect moment to say something. Just be real, be sincere, say the words if they're in your heart, not because you want something, but because truth, when spoken cleanly, has the power to heal both sides. And if she never responds, that's okay. She already heard you long before you ever said it. Because when a woman misses you but won't admit it, her soul still listens for the version of you that could have held her differently. And maybe now you finally know how. If you've been feeling her absence, don't confuse her silence with indifference. There's a story still being written in the quiet, a bond that lingers even when the chapter ends, and whether it's closure, reconnection, or simply wisdom, you deserve to move forward with clarity. Not regret, so if this spoke to you, take a breath, sit with it, and share this with someone who needs to hear it, maybe even her. And if you're on your own journey of healing, love, and rediscovery, you're not alone. This space is here for that. Like this video if it resonated. Subscribe for more conversations that help you understand love, connection, and the human heart, the way it really works. And always remember, when love is real, it doesn't disappear. It just learns to speak differently, even in silence.